the Torah was revealed, some revelation given to Moses, and the Quran later corrects biblical details found in the scriptures, the Old Testament. For example, Solomon disbelieving, or Moses with a staff, or the crucifixion of Jesus. Do you want to repeat, or are you good? You good?
Were you done? You done or what? Are you done trying to tell me how the argument is supposed to go or what? I'm not finna be arguing with you about internal critique or external critique. I'm not finna argue with you about that, bro.
With all due respect, I stopped because I saw you went away. Do you want me to repeat my point, or am I good to go?
Please don't. Please don't.
Okay, no issues, man. No, that's fine. The point being is that the Quranic author defines Torah as what was originally given to Moses, and also defines Torah as what the Jews and the Christians had. Now,
okay.
what you're asking me
so
is
now,
how do I get that
what? Okay,
I get it.
So how do you get the distinction between what he had and what the Jews had? How do you get that? Go.
I had you. The way we make the distinction is that what was originally given to Moses cannot contain misinformation. Because granted that it was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it cannot contain mistakes. However, the Quranic author corrects biblical details found in the 7th century, aka Solomon disbelieving. Therefore, we must be able to make that distinction, because the Quranic author tells us the distinction. One is revelation by Allah that doesn't have mistakes, and the other one does, such as Solomon is believing, given the Islamic paradigm.
Brother, this is the reason why I told you I'm not granting you the truthness of your Quran. I'm not granting you that wait, give me a second. Okay, give me a second, dude. I'm not granting you that anything in your Quran that has a difference between what you read in the Torah that you don't even know why you're going to, because you don't even know what it is all of a sudden the correct position. This is the reason why I told you leave that internal and external critique stuff out of the window. We're not doing that. What I'm doing, dude, if you say that one more time, I'm gonna just kick you, bro.
Host, you know,
I am not. Listen, bro. I'm not granting you that the stories in the Quran are true. I'm not granting you that. I'm not granting you that. All right, bro. You can never have a conversation with Muslims, bro.
We're discussing.
You're trying to dictate how the conversation goes. I'm not granting you that if you see a different story from the Torah in your Quran, that all of a sudden the Quranic story is true. I'm not granting you that. Why would I grant you that in this conversation?
Not what I'm saying.
That is what you just tried to say. You just said the story of Solomon, as you can see, it's told different because it tries to say that he didn't disbelieve. And then you turn around and say, see, that means that the story in the Torah is actually wrong because the Quran says something different. So I guess when your Quran says Joseph went out with his brothers instead of went out to go look for his brothers, that automatically means that your Quran is correcting the Torah. Is that what you're saying?
That's a straw man. That's a straw man. The point being, I'm not saying this. I'm not claiming that the Quranic position is going to be true. That's not what I'm claiming. What I'm claiming is that the host. Wait. What I'm claiming.
You're already claiming that the Quranic position is true.
Wait. I don't need that.
You're saying the story being retold. You're saying the story being retold differently shows that the Quran is correcting the Torah.
Okay. No. What I'm saying is that the Quranic author makes a distinction. That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't matter. It's false. While at the same time, your Quran trying to tell you it's a confirmation of previous scriptures, that the Torah is the authority. The Torah is the criterion given to Aaron and Moses. It's contradicting it. It's contradicting it. It's telling the stories differently.
Yeah. Host, I'll let you finish. The reason we began this conversation is because you asked me to make a distinction between, show me how the Quranic author makes a distinction. Correct? You asked me that. Now, the way we can deduce that, excuse me, 1 second. The way we can deduce
I'm about to just kick you, bro, because I hate when Muslims come up here and say, excuse me, stop doing that. Stop doing that, bro. That's what irritates me.
Okay.
Stop doing that because I'm not finna say nothing to you, bro.
That's fine. We're good. That's fine. No problem.
Stop begging to speak, bro. I hate that. We all do that, bro. That's so weird. Wait, let me speak. Wait, let me speak. Wait, let me speak. Bro, that's annoying to hear, dude.
You're good. Yeah, I got it. No problem. That's fine.
Stop doing that.
I got it, man. That's fine. The point being, if the Quranic author corrects what the Jews and the Christians not even correct, if the Quranic author doesn't affirm the same position given in the scriptures that the Jews and the Christians had with them in the 7th century, it means the Quranic author believes in a distinction.
No, that doesn't mean that the Quranic author believes in a distinction. That means that means that you are assuming that he's talking about a different Torah. The problem is that what's actually happening that you guys are ignoring is that he's actually ignorant. You're not granting the position that the author of the the proof is in the statements he's making about the Torah.
Like what? What do you mean?
If he says that he is in line with the previous prophets, if he says that this book is a confirmation of previous scriptures, if he tries to attach himself to this previous religion, and then he retells the stories that are found in previous books, and he retells them wrong, that means that he is ignorant of the stories that he is telling. The proof is in your Quran.
I heard you. I got it. Now, what you're saying, I will stay in my position, so you can even see that I'm listening. What you're saying.
Let me I don't need you to keep doing this. Let me make sure that you understand what I'm saying by saying what I say. Wait. Let me make sure that you understand what I'm saying before you try to steel man my position.
Okay? Are you gonna repeat yourself?
If I come, hold on. If I come right now, right, and I say I'm a prophet of God, keep in mind. Yeah. I say bro, get all of the heckling Muslims out of here, please. Everybody, block them and mute them. Dude, Muslims just come in here. Y'all, that's all y'all do is just cry and complain in the comment section. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you.
Okay.
So look. Okay. So this is what I want to say here. I come out, I say I'm a prophet, right? I'm a prophet of I'm a prophet, right? And I say I'm a confirmation of the previous scriptures, and I'm saying the Quran. I am a confirmation of the Quran, right? I confirm what is being said in the Quran, and my statements are a criterion over the Quran, right? And then I turn around and say, Muhammad was never a true prophet. Allah never said he was one, and Jesus never said that he wasn't crucified. He never said that he wasn't the Son of God, and Jesus was actually crucified. When you read that book, are you going to say, well, the Quran is false because the Quran actually differs from this book? Or are you going to say that book is false because this book differs from that book? Which one are you going to, which book are you going to denounce? My book or the Quran?
I heard you, host. I'm going to reply. The position that you're taking is going to be a false dichotomy. We don't believe that these are going to be the only two options, host. Wait. So now I want everyone to pay attention.
Brother, stop saying that. You're filibustering. You're filibustering with yourself. I am not cutting you off. Stop saying let me speak.
You just did.
I'm cutting you off to tell you stop cutting me off.
Okay, so you did cut me off.
No, not originally. I'm saying I'm cutting you off now to tell you to stop doing that. Earlier, I told you.
Let me know what I'm
earlier, I told you when you see me ad lib or do something with not ad lib, but when you see me make a facial expression, your first thing shouldn't be wait, let me speak. You're starting to annoy me. Stop doing that.
Okay, let me know.
My facial expression is not cutting you off.
No, you spoke. I'm not talking about your physical.
I didn't speak, dude. You're on video. I'm live streaming. I didn't say anything.
Forget it. Am I good to go?
What is wrong with you?
That's fine. Let me know when I'm good to go, man. I'll wait. It's fine. Am I good to go, host?
This is one thing. No, you're not good to go, bro. Just mute up.
No, come on.
Just mute up. This is one thing that I hate about, and if you start jumping in and disrespecting me, I'm gonna just drop you, bro. This is one thing that I hate, bro. This is my panel. I'm speaking to you, and I'm going back and forth with you like a grown man. Regardless of my tone and how loud I am and how aggressive I am right now, I had 4 hours of going back and forth with Muslims before this. So regardless of how I sound, I am trying to respectfully have a conversation with you. You keep crying about cutting you off when I am not. Whenever I stop to let you speak, I'm looking at my computer and I'm emoting based off the stuff you say, and no words are coming out of my mouth, and you say, stop, let me speak, stop, let me speak. So I'm stopping you from doing that to tell you I'm not speaking. Whenever you say, wait, let me speak, I'm not even cutting you off when you say that.
No issue. No issue. I understand.
So stop. So this is the second time I told you to stop doing that. Furthermore, I don't have a problem with slight interjections. So every time I open my mouth and every time you open your mouth, you're not going to hear me. Wait, let me speak. Wait, let me speak. You talk way too fast and it annoys me. So please stop annoying me and let's have a real conversation. Stop doing that, please, bro.
No issue. No issue.
All right, let's go.
All right. So the position that the host is stating is that if the Quranic author is confirming a scripture and then goes on to correct details of that scripture, we shouldn't assume that the Quranic author makes a distinction. What we should assume is that there's a contradiction within the text. That's what the host is saying. However,
okay, so why would you not assume that the author why would you not assume that the author is ignorant?
Good. The reason why I wouldn't assume that the author is ignorant is because you're presupposing that the confirmation given is absolute, when the Quranic author doesn't affirm an absolute confirmation. We affirm a general confirmation of what is true. Therefore,
where does it say it's confirming a general confirmation?
Yeah, it's going to be reconciled to the text. It's going to be reconciled.
Where? Give me the verses.
Yeah, so in Al-Mustadrak, volume 5, page 214, the Prophet Muhammad himself affirms corruption of the previous scriptures. He explicitly says they have lied about their prophets just as they have distorted their texts, thereby affirming corruption. And we have also other mentions.
Where does it state? No. Where in the Quran does it state a general confirmation of previous scriptures? Because if I'm clear on this position here, right? Muslims are trying to claim and attach themselves to the previous scriptures. Are you saying that your Quran is pointing back to scriptures, one, you can't even identify without going outside of the scriptures? So it's sad to hear Muslims try to claim that it's a general confirmation. And the way that you try to run away from the fact that Muhammad got things wrong is by stating, well, it's a general confirmation. So whenever you see something that he said that's wrong, it's not Muhammad that's wrong. It's actually the previous scriptures that's wrong. And you can see the story is told somewhat the same, but when you go into the Quran, you see that's where Muhammad is correcting it. So he's generally confirming the story that's being told, but he's also correcting it. Where do you get that from in the Quran?
Yeah, we get it from the principle of what a contradiction is, host. A contradiction, by definition, is a P and not P that cannot be reconciled. However, we as Muslims, we can reconcile the two statements. And we also have the Quran in chapter 20 of the Quran being called mubayyina of the previous scriptures. And what mubayyin means in Arabic is that clarification that clarifies between truth and falsehood. And that is mentioned in the same tafsir by Ibn Kathir, where he says that the Quran clarifies the previous scriptures. Now, why would the Quranic author assert that the Quran clarifies the previous scriptures if it believes that there is no distortion? Therefore, we know that the Quranic author believes in a level of distortion.
Look. Okay. What makes you allow the option for ignorance of the author to be removed? Give me a good argument for ignorance of the author to not be removed from your hypothesis.
Yeah. P1. A contradiction is going to be defined as a P and not P that cannot be reconciled. P2, the statements of confirmation and the statements of negation can be reconciled. P3, there is no contradiction. Therefore, it follows that we can assert there is a general confirmation. Which premise do you disagree with most?
Brother, you're being dishonest with your position here. You're being dishonest with your position here. One, you need to stay on topic and stop throwing in arguments that I'm not throwing in.
This is it.
I'm addressing the errors that the Quran is making for itself. When the Quran makes a claim about the previous scriptures, when we go outside of the Quran and go to the previous scriptures, we can clearly see that your Quran is not in line with the previous scriptures. Your argument is that, well, it's a general confirmation of the previous scriptures. So then I come in and say, okay, well, you know what then? How do you even identify what these previous scriptures are? Then that's when you show your dishonesty, because you can't identify what previous scriptures you're supposed to be detailing and dictating with without the confirmation of someone else outside of your Quran. Okay. Muslims cannot tell you what the Torah is. Muslims cannot tell you what the Injil is. So when we go to these revelation outside of your Quran to try to verify it, you guys do this little rip and pick and pull apart thing to try to make it seem like Muhammad wasn't ignorant. So what you do is you say, oh, he's generally confirming things, which means that anything that goes with him is all of a sudden correct, and anything that goes against him is all of a sudden incorrect. What gives you the right to try to pose that theory on the conversation we're having? Leave contradiction out. Leave contradiction out and leave P1 and P2 out. No, go with exactly what I'm saying. You're arguing. You're essentially arguing with yourself.
That's fine. Forget the syllogism. I'm going to take a different approach. The way we can establish that the Quranic author isn't ignorant about it is because the Quranic author is aware of biblical details. How is the Quranic author affirming biblical details if he isn't aware of biblical scriptures?
Okay, so no one said he wasn't aware of biblical scriptures.
Okay, so he's aware of the scriptures?
We said he's ignorant of the biblical scriptures, meaning, so if he hears meaning, do you know what being ignorant of the biblical scriptures? That doesn't mean that you've never heard a story in the Bible. Being ignorant of the biblical scriptures could also mean that there's a story that you've told about the Bible that you were ignorant of, meaning the story of Joseph. When he told the story of Joseph in your Quran, I'm sorry, he told it wrong. When he told it wrong, Muslims think that he actually told it right. The story is actually told incorrect because there are details that are different from what you find in the actual Torah. Your guys' argument is that, well, the Torah didn't really actually say that. Muhammad is correcting it. What makes you think Muhammad just wasn't ignorant of that and had a false story and just told the narrative wrong because he was just talking?
You have to give the inductive case to it, why it must be that.
That is the case because the scriptures exist.
You're begging a question.
No. That is the case because the scriptures exist. We have the scriptures that differ from what Muhammad said, proving the case that he was ignorant of what he was talking about. And he didn't just do it one time. He did it all over the place. He even did it with the story of Zechariah. Zechariah couldn't speak for 3 days. In the story of Zechariah, he couldn't speak for the entire term of the pregnancy. He does it all the time. He retells these stories incorrectly.
I got it. What you're saying is that since he's narrating the stories wrong, it must be that he's ignorant of them. Now, give me the defeater to me holding the position that is correct in the scriptures. You must give the inductive case to the latter.
Dude,
do you have one?
He's giving us the fact that he is directing us back to these scriptures, and we go back to the scriptures to find out if what he said is true, and we find out what he said is false, proves that it proves my case that Muhammad was ignorant of what he spoke of. That's like me saying, hold on, that's like me saying right here, right? Say I'm not even listening to this conversation. That's like me saying, I listened to this conversation between Life and the Muslim apologists, and they were talking about basketball. Are we talking about basketball right now?
No.
Okay, so why would I ask him to? Why would I ask somebody? Wait. Listen. Why would I ask somebody to prove that he is correct over the evidence that we can have? We can go to this conversation right here and prove that I wasn't talking about basketball.
You're assuming.
So the case is already proven. The case is already proven that the conversation me and you had was not about basketball, meaning he is false.
Good. The analogy that you gave, there's going to be a massive symmetry breaker. The symmetry break is that with the analogy that you gave, we have availability to the true conversation that occurred between me and you about basketball. However, with the previous scriptures, we don't have what the prophets taught.
According to who? According to who?
According to history. Do you have what the prophets taught, host?
Hold on, listen. I literally just read to you the story of Joseph in the previous scriptures. Are you denouncing that's the previous scriptures?
I'm saying that's not historical to Joseph.
Okay, well then you'd have to prove that that's not historical. Yeah, how is that not historical, but Muhammad saying it is?
Good. The reason why it's not going to be historical is because the earliest manuscripts we have are going to be the Dead Sea Scrolls, which date 1,000 years plus after Moses.
How does that make the story not historical? It's older than Muhammad. It's older than when he was even born.
Wait. So if a manuscript dates 1,000 years after Moses, is historical to Joseph, host?
That doesn't mean that it's true, though. It doesn't mean that it's incorrect. You're trying to make the case that our oldest manuscripts are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That means that the story is not true. But your oldest retelling of the story is in the 7th century. What are you talking about?
Wait. I'm not saying it's false. I'm saying it's ahistorical. Something can be ahistorical and still be true.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so what makes Muhammad's retelling of this story true and the biblical narrative not? Found in the Dead Sea Scrolls 1,000+ years before Muhammad was even born.
Okay, so me and you both agree that the retelling in the Old Testament is not going to be historical, which is disanalogous with the example you gave, correct?
Who said, dude, listen. What makes, let's do one point at a time. What makes Muhammad's retelling of the story true over the previous scriptures that were already established and canonized in a book before Muhammad was born? So what makes what Muhammad said true?
So now you're simply asking how is Islam true, which can be given through the inductive case of...
Guys, where are my mods? Get all of the hecklers out. Get them out. I don't have time for this today. Get these guys out of here, bro. These guys don't want to have no real conversation. All they want to do is chat nothing in the comments. I'm sick of looking at my comment section, seeing that. Get them out, all of them. Block them all.
Okay.
This guy is doing good. He's having a good conversation, and all the Muslim hecklers are ruining it for him because they're just talking, saying anything.
Muslims, show in the chat, please. Show. Now,
get them all out of here. Anybody that says something, mods, scroll up. Find him and get him out of here. Get Ibn Ali out of here as well, too, because he obviously is scared of topics. All right, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Muslim apologist.
Wait, so granted the proposition that Islam is true, would it follow that the correction given of the previous scriptures would stand and therefore there's the distinction? Would you agree?
I'm waiting for you to provide me evidence of why you believe that Muhammad's telling of this story. Remember, Muhammad is actually retelling a story that happened prior to his birth. What makes you think that Muhammad's manuscript evidence of this story, meaning the stuff that he said got written down, this is the reason why we're able to find it in books and stuff like that. We're going off manuscripts. We're not just going off verbally what somebody said. We also have that same thing. This is the reason why we have the story. What makes you think Muhammad's saying of the story is different from the people that wrote this in the Dead Sea Scrolls in our earliest recording of the Old Testament? What makes you think, what makes you say Muhammad's point is true over this one?
Because we can give the inductive case to why Muhammad is a true prophet. If we do that, wait 1 second. If that's my question too. If granted that Islam is true, proposition Islam is true, if it's granted, would you concede that the distinction is made and the Quran is correct in the previous scriptures?
If Islam is true, then there will be no reason for us to go back and forth about anything prior. The fact that there possibly could have been reading another Torah in Arabia, and he wanted me to find it for them. He wanted me to find it.
Can you hear me?
Get this dude out of here. Yeah, I can hear you, bro. Let me set you up right. All right, TikTok guys, I'm gonna open this up so you guys can hear us. And I find if I may get blocked even just by being not even addressing TikTok, but whatever, we'll see. Look,
you know what you can do. You can if you have an oath, you can join with the oath, mute the account, the main account, and then speak from the oath. That's better.
Yeah, but okay, but yeah, I mean, you know what? You're right. But I've been reported for that as well too. Just being completely honest, I'm not trying to say that, that isn't an option. That is a really good option. But a lot of people do that actually. I think I've tried to do that before. The problem is my other accounts are kind of blocked as well too. But you know what? I'll actually try that. That's a good idea. Thank you for that.
You're good, man. You're good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So here we go. Let me get this out so people can actually hear you. Look, Muslims on TikTok, bro. You guys are ruining it, man. Ruining it. This dude is a really decent conversation. He's chill. We're able to have a conversation. He's able to receive what I'm saying. I'm able to receive what he's saying, and we're able to kind of figure out our issues and actually build from there. Whether we agree or not, this is a pretty good conversation. You guys are ruining it. So Muslims that want to talk, I'm gonna say it now. Come to God Logic 2.0 YouTube channel. click the link. Go to my live. You'll see I'm live. And in the chat will be a link where you guys can come in here. You can't do all that reporting and getting the conversation struck over here. You can't do that over here. So we not, yeah. And he came over here, so we're going to talk over here. All right, go ahead, man. So where do we leave off, bro?
Well, we left off at the point where you were making, which is that why can't we take the position that the Quranic author is simply ignorant on these biblical passages and is simply blundering, and therefore we can hold to the position that he's simply contradicting himself. And then I asked you the question, and I said, granted the premise that Islam is true, would you agree that the Quranic author is actively omitting biblical details, not out of ignorance, but simply correcting the mistakes? So that's where we stopped.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So, and I'm of the position of specifically that the Quran, right, is not from God. It's from an ignorant author who heard things and implement these things into this book in which the mistakes are clearly showing. That's the position. And my evidence for that is the previous scriptures that this person speaks of. That's so that's where I get my evidence from. I have evidence to prove my claim. My claim is, okay, let's just go to what this person is talking about. That's my claim.
Right. So just so we're clear, given the proposition Islam is true, the argument wouldn't follow, right?
Well, I'm not. Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to follow the position that Islam is true. Specifically,
I'm saying given, like it's a conditional.
Well, I'm using this as an argument to show Islam is not true. So, I mean, you can hypothetically ask me, well, if Islam is true, would this not be the case? Well, the problem is that if Islam was true, this argument would not even be able to be had. That's the point. So I understand what you're trying to say. Well, if Islam is true, then none of that matters. But it's saying here, let's ignore the mistakes that he made, and then let's go to whatever we think Islam is true about. And then there we go. Then we can blanket everything else over. Now we have the ability to make all of these positions true that we have stated. And I'm not gonna grant you that position because my argument is that Islam is false because of this position. So I'm not going to say, well, yeah, Islam is true, so we can throw my position out the way.
Right.
No, I'm using this position to show Islam is false.
Okay. This argument, from what I see, collapses. The reason why it collapses is because you're begging the question. You're saying in one of your premises, you're saying the Quranic author got biblical passages wrong, and that same premise is in the conclusion. And the conclusion is the Quranic author got biblical passages wrong. Therefore, this is called begging the question. You must justify the conclusion in the premises, and that one of the conclusions can't be one of the premises. So now, if granted that the Quranic author and the Quranic revelation is true revelation, it follows that the Quranic author wasn't ignorant of the scriptures. So that's what I'm saying. You must be able to substantiate the premises without one of the conclusions being in the premise. You have the problem. In your argument, one of your conclusions is in your premises already. That's the issue I have.
Okay. So what is one of my conclusions?
The conclusions is the Quranic author is ignorant and is retelling these stories in a false narrative. Therefore it's false. That's the conclusion given.
Okay. So, and then what do I mean by ignorant?
Ignorant is simply going to be that he gets them wrong. He gets them incorrect. He's retelling them in the wrong manner.
Right. So what is the issue with posing this argument?
Is that same conclusion that you just said now is actually one of your premises. So if we were to put this in a syllogism, P1, P2, P3.
No. I have one premise. I don't have multiple premises. I have one.
Go ahead. What's the premise?
My one premise is that Islam is false because it clearly shows that Muhammad was ignorant of previous. No. Islam is okay. Let me do it. But I have one premise. Islam is false. Why? Because when we take the stories from what Muhammad tries to claim is true of the previous scriptures, we can see that he got it wrong, meaning Islam is false. You see that?
Okay.
Meaning he's not a true prophet. If he's not a true prophet, then that means that he didn't get this as a revelation from God, meaning he lied and he's a false prophet. I have one premise. Islam is false because I don't have two.
Right. So that's gonna be like basic. It's gonna collapse into basic Islamic dilemma argument. Islam confirms the previous scriptures and then contradicts them. Therefore, Islam is false. But again, so it's gonna if you're gonna run the argument, it's going to be the case where we don't affirm that the Quranic confirmation is absolute. So that's just going to be the position, and it's going to be through reconciling the statements in the Quran. So now it's going to fall back into here. You're saying, well, the Quran is affirming in one place, and then the Quranic authors affirming corruption in one place. Therefore, it's a contradiction. It's going to be simply the case where a contradiction is going to be a P and not P that cannot be reconciled. If we can reconcile it, it's no contradiction.
Okay, so here's the thing. So there's a lot of stuff that kind of went in what you just said. Are we able to establish what your Quran is speaking of so we can push this conversation forward? What set of scriptures is your Quran speaking of when it mentions the Torah, when it mentions the Injil? Is it like if I grab this Bible today right now, is it there? Can I read what Muhammad was talking about in that Bible?
Yes, in a general sense, yes. In an absolute sense, no. We have to make it
okay. So take me through in a general sense. What are you stating when you say in a general sense? What does that mean?
Yeah, general sense is going to be the criteria given of whatever is historically accurate or whatever is going to be in conformity with the Quran. That's going to be what is true from the scriptures.
Right. So essentially, there's really nothing that I can tell you that to show you that Muhammad was wrong when it comes down to bringing up history in previous scriptures, right?
Yeah. So you must assume that the Quran is false in one of your premises and beg the question. Yes.
Well, no, you've already assumed that anything Muhammad told you is true. So there's literally
Muslim post. You must show the country.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the point. See, I'm not posing that bias to you in this conversation. I'm simply going off of what your Quran says for itself, and I'm just fact checking what he says instead of you're not doing this. You're saying, right. I see what this says in this book, and I believe it because I'm a Muslim. It's not because you actually care about the historical research that can be conducted on whether this stuff is true or not. It's because, hey man, I'm a Muslim. This is what this book says. So anything that goes against it must be wrong. That's what you're saying.
You have to give a defeater to my position. For example, I'll give you
that is a defeater to your position because you basically just admitted that you have a bias. You don't really have a real point to say. You don't really have a real point to say what you're saying. You just said because I'm a Muslim. You defeated yourself already just by saying because I'm a Muslim.
The point I'm making is if the confirmation of the Quranic author was given is absolute, then this will be a defeater. Because
let me ask you this: is confirmation bias a defeater in a debate?
Confirmation bias, defeater. It depends on what do you mean. What's the context? Yeah.
It is okay. In the court of law, would confirmation bias be accepted?
No.
There is no It's just no.
Right,
if there was a person on that jury that had confirmation bias, they'd get thrown out. They're out of here.
But that's not always the case. It's not always the case. Confirmation bias can be true.
Unknown confirmation bias would be unfair. So if they had somebody on the jury that automatically knew, I'm about to say this dude is guilty no matter what. Because I believe he's guilty.
Right. In this case, yes, you're right. But not
that person would be okay if that person said that. Yeah, hey, why you make that person guilty? Oh, because I just don't like him, or because that's my brother. Why did you say this person is not guilty? Because that's my brother.
Right. No. Okay.
So you'd get thrown out of the. That would be a hung jury, and they're gonna re-swap everybody because of you.
Right. No. Okay. So the point
I think. Do they read? Is they gonna make a whole new 12? I think they're gonna make a whole new 12 just because of that.
Right.
But whatever. At the end of the day, your statement is anything you got to say is invalid. They throwing you out. You gone. We don't want to hear nothing you got to say.
What I'm trying to say is that if the position of the Quran was that it absolutely confirms the scriptures while contradicting them, the argument you give, host, would follow. and would pose a contradiction, a P and not P. However,
I agree, but here's the thing. But here's the thing. It's hard to establish a conversation with Muslims if that conversation, if the position isn't established. That's why I'm saying, what scriptures are you referring to? Because we can have the conversation about what Muhammad said and what he didn't say, but if you're going to tell me what I bring you is not what he said, or what I bring you is not what he was talking about, then we would essentially be having a really tough time having a real conversation, because in one point I'm thinking that we're talking about Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and I'm also thinking that we're talking about Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, when at the same time you're saying, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But then you're saying, yes, that is what I'm talking about, but pieces of it. It becomes an unfair conversation when you've established that any book that I bring to you is automatically false when it goes against Muhammad. There's nothing that I can tell you.
That's fine. No, I'll break it down. So the point I'm making is, if the host held to the position that the Quran, if the Quranic position was truly that the Quranic authors affirming the scriptures absolutely and then contradicting them, the argument would follow premise by premise, no issue. However, if the position of the Quranic author is not that, it means that the conclusion doesn't necessarily follow, regardless of whether or not I'm a Muslim or not. Is irrelevant to my position. My position the position is going to be is that if the host can't conclude that the confirmation is absolute, it follows that the conclusion doesn't actually follow. That's the point I'm trying to make to you. Which means,
well, here's the thing. Okay, I don't want to go down the confirmation rabbit trail. Your Quran clearly says that it's a confirmation of previous scriptures. It literally tells you that the Torah is the authority, right, given to Aaron and Moses. Test says that is a criterion as well. It says that those are the successful ones that will believe in all of what Allah has revealed, which means that he's revealed the Torah, he's revealed the Injil, he's revealed the Psalms, he's revealed the Quran, and it also talks about some scrolls that Abraham had. The problem here that we have is that these are scriptures that existed outside of your Quran. If these scriptures existed outside of your Quran before Muhammad was even born, and then he comes and says that you can also find him in these, the description of him in these. Right. So when we go to them, your confirmation bias of whatever, like it's like you're getting yourself ready to just deny everything that is found inconsistent with Muhammad's statement. It's, yeah, I'm going to go into these books, but I'm not going to accept everything because, it's whatever Muhammad says goes. So I understand what you're saying, but you can't remove the point of the actual fact. Your book speaks of something outside of itself, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So if your book speaks of something outside of itself, are we wrong for going outside of that book to go find out if it says exactly what your Quran says? Are we wrong? Are we wrong for doing that?
Yeah, no, I'm not. You're not wrong for doing that, but you must give that. You must give the true position of what the Quranic author believes. What I mean by that is,
the Quranic author believes that he's in those books,
and he is.
Okay, where?
Daniel 2 and Daniel 7.
Okay, so he's in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. So Correct. Is Muhammad saying that he's in a book that contradicts his own message?
Yes, and that's, of course, because we don't affirm that a book can have corruption and truth in it at the same time, which means it's a false dichotomy to say, one second. It's a false dichotomy to say that it either must be fully true or fully false. No, it can have both. It can have remnants of truth and also falsehood. There's no issue. What's the issue with that?
Because you guys, but do you see what I'm saying? You come in and say Muhammad is in this book, and then when we go into that book, we see a different theology being told. You go to Daniel. Right. Is Daniel the Injil? Is Daniel the Injil?
Daniel will be the Torah. The Torah meaning what they had with them in the 7th century, not the Torah as in the 5 books of Moses.
Daniel is the Torah?
The Islamic definition of Torah is going to be what they had with them, the Jews and the Christians, yes.
No. There's no Islamic definition of the Torah. The Torah existed before Islam. Islam doesn't get to just come and say what the Torah is. Islam speaks on the Torah, nor does Islam ever say you can find Muhammad and Daniel. You guys have scavengered this book throughout whatever you hate and don't like, and then turned around and said, I think this one is actually a good one. The problem is you ignored everything in that book that shows Muhammad is a false prophet, and then you landed on Daniel and said, all right, let's go ahead and throw everything. Let's go ahead and throw everything else out that we don't like. The problem is Daniel is not the Torah. Daniel is not the Torah. Daniel is not the Injil. Your Quran says he can be found in the Torah and the Injil. Why are you in Daniel trying to find Muhammad?
Correct. Torah host, when the Quran says that it's confirming what they have in between their hands, what they have in between the hands of the Torah and the Injil is the Old and the New Testament in a general sense. So yes, the book of Daniel.
Okay, what is the Old and the New Testament? What books are
that includes the book of Daniel? That
includes the book of Daniel. How do you know? How do you know Daniel was in? How do you know Daniel was ever in the Old or the New Testament?
Because that's what they had with them.
Wait a minute. So you accept what they had with them without you don't why aren't you dissecting whether Daniel was even a part of the Torah and the Injil? Why do you not care about what books were supposed to be in there or not? You care about what's you care about what you're reading in the books, but you don't care about what books are supposed to be in there or not. Why don't you got to think about this? Why aren't Muslims questioning what is supposed to be in the Torah? You guys accept Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy as the first 5 books of Moses, i.e. the Torah, but you guys don't question why it's 5 books instead of 1. Why is it 2 books instead of 3? You guys don't question that. Instead, you come in and read it and scan it for whatever you like, and then you throw everything else out. Same thing with the Injil. You do the same thing. You don't question. You don't question what the Injil is supposed to be. You tell other people what the Injil is supposed to be when it suits you. Why is Daniel in the Injil or the Torah according to Islam? Why is Daniel there? What evidence do you have to present Daniel was ever even in the book?
Yeah, the evidence that I have is that we have specific narrations mentioning that the companions found the body of Daniel and found scripture with him which confirmed the coming of Islam. Therefore, within the Islamic paradigm, the companions affirmed the prophethood of Daniel and affirmed the scriptures which foretell Islam. That's going
to be somebody found Daniel's body, dug him up, so Muhammad's companions found Daniel's body and found Daniel's scriptures with Daniel.
Correct. Yeah, they found scriptures. Yes, they found scriptures that foretell the coming of Islam, and that's going to be done in 2027.
What in the world? Where did you get this from? I would love to see that.
Oh, do you want me to? Fine, give me a second. I'll upload the source note.
Islam is crazy. The Muslims found Daniel, his body, his bones, and they found Daniel's scriptures with Daniel. And when they read it, it prophesied Muhammad. Wow. Wow. This is new. This is new, y'all.
Host, can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so can I paste links? And
you can put it in the private chat. Yep.
Okay, give me a second. On the chat. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, so if you can just open that up, it gives the historical background and the narration about Umar ibn al-Khattab finding that, which means that the Islamic paradigm allows for Daniel to be a prophet. That's the first thing, and allows for the prophecies about Daniel of the coming of Islam to be substantiated in the Islamic paradigm.
Okay, let me see. So it says, oh man, this dude did a lot of filibustering. Goodness, he's in David, he's in Solomon, Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, can you take me to where? I mean, this is long. I'm not reading. I'm not reading all. So. Where does he state that they found Daniel's body?
Right. So the part where it says in Islamic history there is a well-known event narrated by Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Abi Shayba, and Al-Bayhaqi. So that is the part you're gonna start from, and it mentions they found his body lying on its bed, totally unchanged except for a few hairs on the back of his head. At his head was a scroll which they took and brought to Umar, who called Ka'b al-Ahbar to translate into Arabic.
Where is this? Like what part? You got to take me to the part.
So you see what it says, the prophecy of Daniel? Do you see that part?
Yeah, the front right here.
Okay, it says, and then it says 8 point, the prophecy of Daniel. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Skip past that. Skip past the part where it's in like separate from the text, and then go down to where it says, as for the personality of Daniel. Do you see that?
Yep.
Okay, and then skip that paragraph and start where it says in Islamic history. That's what I'm referring to.
In Islamic, no.
What do you
mean? In Islamic history?
No, I'm saying, and it gives the reference.
I'm not granting you Islamic history for something that's before these guys. Okay, you have to bring me biblical history, dude, not Islamic history. These guys say a whole bunch of stuff. Honestly, this is foolery, but these guys say a whole bunch of stuff. I can't grant you Islamic history for something that these guys say. We can find it. We can find it. I want to read it, but dude, I can't grant you Islamic history. Comment here. Islamic history has no bearing on the actual history of these guys.
I understand. Let me make a point. I understand that. Okay. The point.
But wait, really quick. I want to find it.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll read it. I'll read it out. So start from where it says in Islamic history. There's a well-known event.
Hold on, because I don't know. I don't see that in Islamic history. I don't see that.
Yeah, right there in Islamic history. Go up. There you go.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay. In Islamic history, there's a well-known event narrated by Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Abi Shayba, Al-Bayhaqi, and Ibn Abi Dunya and others from the second generation of Muslims who participated in the conquest of the city of Tustar, including Abi Aliya al-Mutraf ibn Malik. The particular incident that concerns us here is that the conquering Muslim army discovered the tomb of Daniel. They found his body lying on its bed, totally unchanged except for a few hairs on the back of his head. At his head was a scroll which they took and brought to Omar, who called Ka'b al-Ahbar, who translated into Arabic. Abu Aliya says, I was the first man to read the Arabic translation. The narrator from Abu Aliya states, I asked Abu Aliya what is in it. He replied, all of your history and affairs, the melody of your speech, and what is yet to happen. Right? So this is referring about Islam, obviously. That's going to be the important part, I assume. So, and you made a comment and you said this doesn't have a bearing on actual history. However,
no, because hold on. Because when was Daniel born? Like what time period did Daniel live in?
During the time of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian Empire.
Right. And so here this says that his body was found unchanged except for a few hairs on the back of his head, meaning his body was sitting somewhere preserved.
Prophets don't decay. Prophet's body is on decay.
Okay, so where is his body now?
Right, I wouldn't be able to
show me anybody of any prophet from any biblical times, any Quranic times that is not preserved.
Show you what, host?
These dudes, show me any preserved body of a prophet.
The Prophet Muhammad,
they don't open his casket.
Yeah, so we can't verify nor deny, correct? So you can't make the assumption that it's not true, right?
What do you mean we can't verify nor deny? These guys literally just said that they found his body lying there unchanged, and unpreserved. Why didn't they just why didn't they just keep him and his body unpreserved as for everybody to see as a miracle? If this was the same thing for Muhammad, why didn't they do the same thing? You see, here's the thing. Let me say this. Islam cannot continue to try to thrive off positions that you can neither confirm nor deny. That's not a good position to hold.
Host, 1 second.
Can you confirm or wait? Let me ask you this: can you confirm or deny that an alien walked through my room yesterday with red hair, green skin, jumped out this window, broke my window, turned around, fixed it, and then flew all the way up in the air? Can you confirm or deny that?
through synthetic truth, I can make the inductive case that this is false. However,
but can you? But do you know if it's false?
Deductively, no.
Thank you. So you can neither confirm nor deny that didn't happen. You can assume and make you can assume and make a deductive assumption, but it would be foolish for me to come try to pose this theory as if it was true. So reading me something like this saying, "Oh, the earth doesn't consume the body of the prophets." We understand that. I read the hadith. I understand that. Right. But the problem is it's problematic because we don't have any evidence of that at all.
That's fine, host. I understand that. And please, before we move on, I want to adjust a quick point that you made where you said that this has no bearing on actual history, therefore we ought to not take it.
However, it doesn't. I literally just destroyed. Look, I'm not even trying to be arrogant. I literally just destroyed that position because it literally says that his body was fully preserved from 600 BC all the way up into the what is this? What are we at? The 10th century? You said 2 generations after Muhammad. Right. So what are we, the 10th century? They found his body just laying somewhere? Right. Why did nobody else in history write about finding Daniel's body when Daniel was a prominent figure before Islam?
That's fine. I understand. And please let me answer your
question. No one talks about Daniel's body being laid up like this with a scroll on the back of his head.
I'm going to answer
that. Except for guys coming 200 years after Muhammad.
All right, good. Now, the point being is that Yusuf asked for the specific narration from the Islamic paradigm that affirms the prophethood of Daniel and affirms that Daniel did indeed prophesy about Islam. And now what you've done is you've shifted the goalposts and you said, no, you gave me this, but it's ahistorical and we ought not to take it. This is called goal shifting. You're shifting the goalpost.
No. One, I thought what you were saying were foolish the moment you spoke on it. I didn't validate this at all. No, I just wanted to read it for myself because I'm like, where are you getting this from? Sometimes we have people that just make up stuff. The fact that you actually have this, I think it's funny. I'm not validating this at all in no way, shape, or form. I would never, I would never in a million years validate that what you just told me is true. I would never validate this. This sounds insane. One, your reasoning for why this was true is that the earth doesn't swallow up the bodies of the prophets. Then you use Muhammad as an example in which no one has ever proven that to be the case. We don't have any bodies of any preserved prophets that are spoken of in my religion or in your religion. So this destroys this entire narrative that his body was found. You have to understand, Daniel was a prominent figure in the previous religion that you're speaking of. Right. Why on earth did nobody write about finding David's body laid up somewhere?
That's an argument from silence.
With a scroll. You're doing an argument from silence. I'm just dishing it right back at you.
Wait,
I'm dishing it right back at you. If we're gonna go with arguments from silence, if we're gonna go with arguments from silence, and we're just gonna bring things up, I should be able to rebuttal it in the same way. If this was the case, I assume that someone else would have been able to find the scroll. You know why? You know why?
Go ahead.
Because we have Daniel's writings in the Bible. So this should be historic. This should be put in history about how this man's body will not decay, and so we gotta prop it up somewhere. So where's this body right now?
You're all over the place.
No, I'm not all over the place. I'm just going with the position that you're saying that his body should still be around because the body of the prophets
that's the issue. Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, that's the issue I have with all of your argumentation. To be honest, all of your arguments already in the premises already presuppose Islam to be false. Meaning that one of your premises, hey, Islam is false, therefore it cannot be the case that the bodies can't decay.
No, so, I'm not presupposing. No. I'm not presupposing. No.
Just let me.
I'm not presupposing. No. Listen, bro. When you guys bring up evidence for something as to why something is true, whenever we dictate whether the statement you made is true, you say, well, can you confirm or deny? And just because I wasn't living in this time period where these people supposedly found Daniel's body, you want to try to still have the argument as if this is true. There's no evidence to present that this even ever happened. One, your argument for why this could possibly be true is what? The earth does not consume the body of the prophets. Why do we not have a lick of evidence of this happening for any prophet? What's the evidence for any prophet that their bodies did not decay via the earth?
Yeah, because host is disrespectful to dig up bodies of prophets. Do you understand what it means?
So who buried his body?
I wouldn't be able to know that. How can I know?
Was his body buried? Does this say his body?
So.
Does this say they grabbed the scroll and then buried his body? What they do with his body?
No, they found the body. They found it.
Okay, so what did they do with it? What happened to it?
Again, I would have to double check the narration. I'm not sure if that count is what they did, what they found it. The point being is that you're saying, hey,
okay, so they found a body and you guys don't know what happened to it. Miraculous.
Host, just because I'm not able to record specific details from the narration doesn't mean I don't. The hadith doesn't clarify. That's
the point. You guys in Islam, you guys like to speak about stuff and then you guys don't like to provide.
With all due respect, host,
you don't like to provide evidence for it. This is not evidence for it, bro. They found Daniel's body. What is it? 1,000, almost 2,000 years later.
I never claimed
found his body preserved.
Once again,
and it says unchanging except for what?
Okay,
a few hairs on the back of his head. So that means Daniel passed away and he was in perfect form for 1,000 plus years.
Host, with all due respect, I never once made the claim that we should use this to justify a naturalistic approach of what we should believe historically about Daniel. All I'm saying is that from the Islamic paradigm, the prophecies of Islam given in the book of Daniel is substantiated in Islam. Now, me and you can now.
But you're saying that is provided as a crutch to why Daniel is a true prophet, because Muslims found this scroll under the head of his body that was laying somewhere preserved for 1,000 plus years.
Now
that's why you said you believe Daniel is true.
Correct. Yes. And now whether or not
now is all of Daniel true, or just the parts that you guys like?
To be honest, I haven't read the book of Daniel completely. I've read chapter 2, I've read chapter 7, I've read chapter 9.
So we having this whole conversation about Daniel and you ain't read it all. This is supposed to be one dude that y'all solidify. You ain't read all of Daniel.
With all due respect, I'm not absolutely obliged to read the entire book in order to come to a deductive conclusion. I
would hope you did, because Daniel makes it. I hope you did, because Daniel makes statements that you yourself as a Muslim wouldn't believe of.
Let's go to it. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about Daniel.
Is Daniel authoritative for you? Is all of Daniel authoritative?
Yeah, the prophecies given about the fifth kingdom, of course, is going to be authoritative.
No. But I want all. Is all of Daniel authoritative? Are you cherry picking, or are you just,
No, literally. Let's read the whole of chapter 2. Let's read the whole of chapter 7. Let's see who the fifth kingdom is. I want to discuss with you.
But is all of Daniel authoritative to you? That's what I'm asking. Is it all authoritative, or is it just what you read?
I can say that Daniel is going to be generally true. There's no issue with Daniel. Yes, I've
read. And there it is. That's the position that I'm holding right there. This is the reason why I'm not gonna go. This is the reason why I'm not gonna go into Daniel with you, is because you have already established a position of general confirmation, meaning whatever you accept is okay, that goes in line with the Quran, you're going to deal with. Whatever I show you that goes against the Quran, even if I go in other biblical passages, you're going to throw it out. So let me ask you this. If you come into a conversation that everything, let me just ask you this. Anything textual outside of the Quran that goes against what the Quran says, is it automatically false?
Given the premise that P1 Islam is true, whatever goes against it must necessarily be false, whether you like it or not.
Thank you. So no matter what I do in this conversation, I cannot help you realize that
the defeat of the matter.
Wait. I would whatever happens in this conversation, you just admitted that I would not be able to tell you how Islam is false textually outside of itself, because you automatically think that it's true, no matter what.
You're begging the question that you're saying Islam is already false. Therefore, whatever argument I bring, the conclusion must be.
I'm not saying Islam is already false. I'm showing you how Islam is false based on the statements that Islam makes itself. You're saying that Islam can make
go through them.
Hold on. You're saying that Islam can make the statement and be automatically true. That's what you're saying. You're not allowing me to show. you're not allowing the Quran to be truthful in the statements that it makes. You're saying the Quran is true. Listen, you're not allowing the Quran to be truthful in the statements that it makes.
What does that mean?
Meaning, when you verify whether the Quran has made a correct statement, then that means the Quran is true. You do it the opposite. You say the Quran made this point, and it's automatically true.
No.
So when someone goes, okay, wait. So okay. So when the Quran so when the Quran retells the story of Zechariah, is it automatically true?
No, the Quranic position isn't simply going to be true just because it claims something different. We don't claim that. That's not our position.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. So prove to me that the story of Zechariah told in previous scriptures is false.
Right. So we would have to give the inductive case that Islam is true. Once we substantiate that case, host, 1 second, that you're conflating it. Once we give that case,
there it is. There you back to Islam being true. You can't prove it.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask a simple question, please.
You have to make Islam true to just blanket it over everything. Do you see what you're doing, bro?
Let me test that. I'm asking a question now. Given the proposition Islam is true, if that is granted, would you agree that anything that contradicts it would be false? Yes or no?
You have to stop asking me that, because I'm posing questions to you to show Islam is false.
I'm asking.
I'm posing things to listen. I'm posing things to you to show you that Islam is false, and you're saying let's ignore that, and let me ask you hypothetically, if Islam is true, does that all of a sudden make what you're saying false? Dude, what I'm showing you is that Islam is false because of this. You're ignoring this. Stop ignoring what I'm giving you to show you why Islam is false.
I'm receptive to what you're saying. I'm receptive to everything you're saying. You're saying that the Quranic author gets biblical accounts wrong, therefore it's false. I understand your position, with all due respect. The point being is that in order to get that conclusion, you must first assume that the biblical accounts are true of what the prophets taught, and you must also assume that the Quran.
No, that's not how it works. Listen, my biblical position, if false, you have what to go to.
What do you mean by that?
If I were to say your Quran mentions stories of the previous prophets, the previous scriptures, how would you go and verify what the previous prophets and previous scriptures said if this book was false? Right. How would you go? What book would you go to? What would you have?
Right. Historically, because you're assuming that the false attributions are absolute, meaning that
I'm asking you, what would you go to? What would you go to? What would you go to? Let's just say the Bible. Let's just say no one used the Bible. I don't use the Bible. Christians don't use the Bible. Jews don't use the Bible. Muslims don't either. But your Quran still said exactly what it said. What would you go to verify these passages in your Quran?
Right. So if the biblical accounts are going to be generally false, meaning that it has false statements, we're simply going to refer to what is true from the scriptures. Now, if you say, well, excuse, one second, you can't keep saying,
you can't keep throwing in. You can't keep throwing in generally false because you don't know how to. I understand that. I understand that. That's what I'm saying. You're saying you understand that confirmation bias will get you thrown out of the court, but you keep using confirmation bias.
That's not analogous.
You keep saying our position is that we generally confirm the Bible. We don't care what you guys generally confirm.
You must give a defeater. Host, you have to give a defeater.
No, listen, bro. You're not going to. My position is that all of the Bible is true. Period. So if you're gonna be able to bring your position in now, now I'm gonna confirmation bias you. I've been trying to not do confirmation bias the entire time, but now since you think that that's how a conversation works, I'm gonna do the same thing. I believe everything in the Bible is true, and I believe Muhammad can't be in Daniel because the Bible itself as a whole says that Muhammad is a false prophet. So how would you be able to go into the Bible and do anything with me?
Right. So now the host has shifted the argument. He was doing an internal critique of our position. Now he's saying no.
How are you back to internal critique? I thought we were done with that.
Host. No, you misunderstood what internal critique means.
You are doing this confirmation bias internal critique argument with yourself. I told you I'm not doing that. I told you I'm not doing that. I hope you don't think. I hope you don't think we were doing that this whole time. I told you I wasn't doing that a while ago.
That's fine. Does the Quranic author affirm the biblical accounts absolutely?
Yes.
Okay, go to Quran chapter 20, verse 133. Let's open it. Let's read together.
Okay, go ahead, read it. You got it?
If it would be better if you'd open it, so I can read it again.
Goodness, man, this is crazy, bro. This is everybody knows, right? This is why we it's really tough to have decent conversations, because the Muslims come to the conversation automatically with the Quran is right, no matter what it says, it's over with.
That's an internal critique, host. With all due respect.
But I told you I'm not doing an internal critique with you. I already told you that. You're arguing with yourself. You can't force me to have an internal critique.
I'll give an example, right? If I was to come and say, hey, I believe that according to your biblical account, Jesus lacks essential divine making properties. I must first start with the assumption that the biblical account deifies Jesus with all the intrinsic properties, and I must work backwards. That's how an internal critique works. Now, if you come into Islam and you do the same thing and you say, hey, Islam
how many times have I told you that I'm not doing an internal critique with you? How many times did I tell you that?
You're gonna be conceding the argument, unfortunately.
No, I'm not.
If you do that.
No, I'm not.
No, go to chapter 20 of the Quran.
I can simply read your book and see that it talks about a book outside of itself, and go find that book and see that your book is false. I don't have to go to that book with the assumption that what I just read in the Quran all of a sudden makes what I'm about to read false. This is what you want me to do. You want me to try to establish your guys' position while I'm reading another book. This is the reason why you guys are all I don't have to do that. This is the reason why you guys are always stuck in conversation, because you don't want to admit that your prophet made blunders about the previous religion that he spoke on. So you want to try to trap us into this box where you are already trapped in yourself. You're mentally trapped in this position that you've been taught, no matter what, Muhammad is right. No matter what, Islam is right. So everything that you go to is automatically false when it shows that Islam is false. And so what you do is, instead of being hypercritical with why Muhammad was false, right? Which is why you'd go to somebody 200 years after Muhammad passed away, talking about they found Daniel's body perfectly preserved except for some hair on the back of his head. This is the reason why you'd go there. So let's understand what kind of conversation we're having here. You don't get to force me to tell you what kind of conversation you're having. I mean, I'm having, and I'm not forcing you to tell you what conversation you're having. I'm trying to show you to remove the confirmation bias. You want to pull me in that boat with you. I'm not granting you that anything that the Quran says about the previous scriptures are true. Okay?
Let's let the Quran speak for itself. Let's go to chapter 20 of the Quran, verse 130.
That's what I've been trying to do, but you don't want to.
No issue.
Chapter 20 verses what?
133. 133. If you don't mind, just put it on the screen as well, so I can read it.
Is this the right verse? They demand, if only he could bring us a sign from his Lord. Have they not received a confirmation of what is in earlier scriptures?
Right. If you just open that on the screen so I can read the Arabic as well, because it's very important.
Okay. How does this verse help you?
Right. وقالوا لولا يأتنا بآية من ربه أولم تأتهم بينة ما في الصحف الأولى. Now the word used for confirmation is going to be bayina. Bayina simply means to clarify from what is true and what is false. So what we can do is to confirm this. If you open up the exegesis of this verse, if you can do that, and we can go to Ibn Kathir, we'll see exactly what he mentions in it. Do you want to do that, host? And you can confirm the word bayina, you can copy paste it and check the definition for it.
Dang, my camera died. My camera died, but okay, go ahead. What? So what are you saying about this verse?
Yeah, so the word bayina used in the verse simply means
evidence.
Yeah. Bayina simply means to clarify between what is false and what is true, and this is confirmed in Ibn Kathir. If you go to the tafsir of that verse.
Okay, so it says, and they say, why not? He brings us a sign from his Lord. Has not come to them evidence of what is in the scriptures.
Right. If you could just open the tafsir for this verse.
Okay, so it says this either refers to the biblical stories confirmed by the Quran or the prophecies of Muhammad in the Bible. Some Muslim scholars cite Deuteronomy 18:15 through 18, 33:32, Isaiah 42, John 14:16 as examples of the description of Prophet Muhammad in the Bible. However, biblical scholars interpret these verses differently. How convenient.
If you could just, this is a footnote. I would like to go to Ibn Kathir and see what he mentions about this, please.
Okay.
Is it Ibn Kathir? I believe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what part is this?
Give me a second. I'm gonna go off screen. You can still hear me anyway. So, 1 second.
I don't understand what's going on, man. You guys need to understand, bro, that going into your Quran, trying to establish going into your hold on, let me just say this, bro.
Go ahead.
Going into your Quran, when your Quran clearly over and over and over says that it's a confirmation of previous scriptures, to believe in the scriptures. It even says that what was given to Aaron and Moses is the criterion. It does not say that the Quran is a general confirmation of anything. It doesn't say that. You guys assert that. You guys make Allah say what you want him to say in order to validate your position. You know why? Because you guys want to come into the Bible. Look at what I just put look at what I just found in the footnote. And we can go back to the tafsir. Look at what I just read in the footnote though, right? And I don't even read footnotes, but I just find this funny how look at all of these Bible passages from this corrupted book, right?
Again,
this corrupted book, but Muslim scholars, it literally says Muslim scholars cite all of these. Deuteronomy, you got Isaiah, and you got John in here. These same very passages that contradict Islam. Muslims are citing these passages.
That's fine. Do you mind if you go back to the tafsir? I can locate. Can you scroll down?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
More. It's like when the new heading comes up. So if you just keep going down. Like down. Yeah. So you see where it starts.
Why does not? Has there not come to them proof of what is in the former scriptures?
This means that the Quran, which Allah revealed to him while he was unlettered man, who could not read, could not write well, and who did not study, the people of the book, yet the Quran contains information about the people of the book of the past that tells of the events from the times long ago and agrees with the authentic information in the previous books concerning these matters. The Quran is the supervisor over these books. It verifies what is correct and explains the matters that were falsely placed in these books. So the word bayina used here specifically means that the Quran clarifies from what is true and corrects what is false.
Right. This is what I've been telling you this entire time. You're coming into the conversation with the position. Listen to what I'm just telling you. You're coming into the conversation with a position that no matter what, the Quran is automatically correct. You're trying to use a position. Listen, I don't deny that you guys have this faulty position. Your Quran doesn't say that. Your scholars do. Your scholars insert this into the book. Notice how, hold on one second. Notice how none of that was actually said in chapter 20, verses 133. I don't deny that you have people outside of your book trying to assert this into your Quran. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that you've asserted a position of authority over something you have no business doing so. That's the point. Does
Muhammad affirm corruption, host?
Huh?
Does Muhammad affirm corruption?
Affirm corruption where?
In the narrations, does he affirm corruption, yes or no?
No, Muhammad does not affirm that the Torah or the Injil is corrupted. No.
Okay, good. I'm going to give you the source now. Al-Mustadrak, volume 5, page
200. Dude, you're going outside of your, listen, bro. Listen.
This is hadith.
Listen. I know. Listen.
Then it stands.
Listen, Muslim apologists. Listen, bro.
Go ahead.
No one has any issues with saying, yes, outside of Islam, you have people that make these assertions from what your book is saying.
Hadith is outside of Islam?
No one is claiming that. No one is claiming
hadith
that.
Are outside of Islam?
What I'm saying, dude, listen to the position Muslims are putting themselves in. It's in the position
Prophet himself.
Listen,
the Prophet himself is affirming corruption.
It's okay. Listen to the position Muhammad is putting himself in.
Oh my God. No way. There's no way you're serious.
Listen. He's putting himself in the position of playing the game of I am right no matter what. Notice that, right? Notice what was just read here, right? We just read a part in the tafsir, right? Where he's trying to establish the authenticity of something by claiming that what he says is automatically true and what something says against this is automatically false with no evidence.
That's fine.
No evidence. Find me, listen, hold on, Muslim apologists. Find me a manuscript that agrees with Islam. Find me a manuscript that agrees with Islam. Instead of just saying, yeah, anything that goes against what Muhammad said is automatically false, but anything that goes with him is automatically true. Find me a manuscript that agrees with Islam hold on, when it comes down to presenting these passages. So let me give you an example. I want a manuscript that agrees with the story of Exodus in the Quran. I want a manuscript that agrees with the story of Zechariah in the Quran. And I want a manuscript that agrees with the story of the crucifixion in the Quran. Find me those manuscripts in the previous scriptures that are valid.
Host, please let me respond to the previous statement. With all respect, you moved on.
Go ahead.
A second, please. That's fine. The host, the question that was originally raised to the host is, does the Quranic author affirm the biblical account? Absolutely. Now, the reason why it's important,
he does.
One second, please.
Wait. He does. Listen, he does. Look. Hold on. Wait. Notice how you went to this verse and you had to go to a tafsir that over-explained the verse. Let me show you. Wait, let me show you. Hold on, bro. Let me show you, because I don't want you to go. I don't want you to, because you think you have a position. I don't want you to go off of a false narrative that I'm not posing.
Can you let me state my position?
I'm not, dude. I don't want you to go off of a false narrative that I'm not even posing.
You can correct me in your own time.
This is not the argument that I'm presenting. Why are we wasting time on this?
Because you made the assertion that it's absolute. I'm showing you contrary evidence. Can you please let me finish?
It is absolute. Your Quran literally, dude. Your Quran literally says it's a confirmation of previous scriptures, not part. Your Quran literally says those are the successful Muslims that believe in all of what Allah has revealed. Your Quran literally condemns people from taking the scriptures in part. But yet you're telling me your scholars can come in and say, take the scriptures in part. Whatever goes with the Quran is good. Whatever goes against the Quran is false.
The Islamic
You're giving me a position that I'm not even presenting to you.
Host. The Islamic paradigm doesn't solely consist of Quran. We are not Quranists.
I know that.
Wait,
I just said I know that. I just said that you guys make Allah say whatever you want him to say. Did I not tell you that earlier?
Please let me finish. Please, with all respect, please let me finish.
Bro, I'm not. No. Listen. No. This is the part of the conversation that I'm not about to do. I am not. I'll tell you this now. I am not about to waste my time arguing with you about a position I'm not.
You can't have guests on the panel and
bro. I'm not finna waste my time with you arguing a position that I'm not presenting. I am not presenting that this information does not exist in your religion. I'm not presenting that.
Okay,
but I'm not granting you.
Absolutely confirm it.
I'm not granting you that this information is true. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, there's no way you're serious, host.
I'm not granting you that your Quran is telling you to cherry pick the previous.
You're begging the question. You're literally begging the question.
Listen, you haven't read me a Quran verse that tells you can cherry pick the previous scriptures. You haven't read that. What you've done is you've went to people outside of your Quran to say whatever goes against the Quran is now all of a sudden false, and whatever agrees with the Quran is all of a sudden true. I know that I know that these stories are out there in your Islamic position outside of your Quran. I know that already.
Yes or no? Does the Prophet say it? Yes or no?
No, he doesn't.
Okay, I'm giving you the evidence. In Al-Mustadrak, volume 5, 214.
Bro, I'm telling you this. I'm telling you this. Your Quran does not dictate a picking, pulling of the scriptures.
You have to go outside.
You have to go outside. Listen, I'm talking about Quranically. Quranically. I don't care what people say. I don't care. I'm not saying you're a Quranist. This dude doesn't understand, bro. You literally want me to allow you to tell your Quran what to say using other outside sources. We're not doing that right now.
As authoritative as the Quran.
Okay. Let me tell you this. If you read a hadith and it goes against what the Quran says, is that hadith true or false?
Now you have to give the contradiction.
If you read a hadith and it goes against what the Quran says, is it true or false?
If it contradicts, then it's false. But
if you read a tafsir that goes against what the Quran says, is it true or false?
False.
Okay, thank you. So show me a Quran verse that says what you're saying, bro.
Yes. The Quran verse, yes, the Quranic author affirms that the biblical accounts are false. Therefore,
I said, give me the verse.
Yeah,
you didn't get this verse.
Yes.
Bro, this is the verse you gave me, bro. This is the verse you gave me.
Yeah.
This is the verse. No, this is the verse you gave me, bro. Hold on.
Quranic author, the Quranic.
Hold on.
Can I
this is the verse. This is the verse that you gave me, bro.
You
to try to prove your point, a verse that literally confirms the earlier scriptures.
That's fine.
Hold on. They demand if only he could bring us a sign from his Lord. Look, have they not received a confirmation of what is in the earlier scriptures? This has nothing to do with cherry picking the other earlier scriptures. What you had to do was go into a tafsir where someone over-explained what this verse doesn't even say.
I'm going to ask you, host. The Quranic author denies biblical details. Therefore, the Quranic author doesn't absolutely believe it's true. For example,
the Quranic author gets biblical details wrong.
Prove it.
Prove it. Okay. Yes. How long did Zechariah be able to speak? How long was Zechariah not able to speak when John was born?
Give that count.
According to the Quran, it's 3 days.
Right.
Okay. So what is the biblical account?
It's going to be different, which proves that the Quranic author disagrees with biblical details.
Thank you. So I just proved to you that he didn't confirm that biblical account. He actually got it wrong.
Host, this is called a non sequitur.
You're asking me to prove to you Muhammad got biblical accounts wrong. I do it, and then you reject it.
I'm rebutting. I'm saying that if okay, so you agree that the Quranic author disagrees with that biblical detail, correct?
Brother, you just asked me. You just
hold
on. Did you not just ask me? You said to prove Muhammad got biblical accounts wrong, right?
No, that's not what I asked you. Nope.
Okay, did Muhammad get biblical accounts wrong?
No, he didn't.
Okay, what do you mean by no, he didn't get biblical accounts wrong? Good. Where do you get these accounts from?
Yeah, so you're assuming that the biblical accounts must be true, therefore the Quran is already false.
Wait a minute. Wait. No. He's referring us back to biblical accounts. So where do we find?
Yes, no, absolutely. Yes.
What do you mean generally? Where do we go to find these accounts?
Good. What do you mean? Which accounts?
Where can I go to find this account of Zechariah not being able to speak when John was born? Where can I go to find this to prove Muhammad was actually retelling a story properly?
Yeah. So the Quran specifically confirms that event.
Where's he getting this from? Where did he get this from?
From God.
Okay, thank you. So did this story exist before God told him?
In a false narrative, yes, of course.
Oh, in a false narrative. What makes you believe it's false?
Because it doesn't date to the prophets.
Huh? Why would it date to the prophet? Why would it date to the prophet? It was before prophet. It was before Muhammad was born.
No,
why would it date
it doesn't date to your prophets. It doesn't date to the prophets being described about. It doesn't date.
What are you talking about? These are retellings of the stories that took time at that place. It dates way earlier than Muhammad.
Prove it.
Dude, we have earlier manuscripts of this story. What makes you believe it's false?
Prove the historical. Prove it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So are you trying to claim that we have the earliest known retelling of this story in our book, and you're saying that it's false because what?
Because they don't date to the prophets. They don't date to the prophets.
And that automatically makes it false.
Because it's ahistorical.
So wait. So a telling, hold on, wait. So the telling of a story about what somebody did, if it doesn't date all the way back to them, it's false.
Yeah, if you claim, I'm gonna clarify. If you claim it's a historical document, then yes. If you claim it's a theological,
if the manuscript that survived doesn't date all the way back to them, you're saying that it's automatically false.
Yeah. If you're making the historical claim, then yes.
Okay, then yes. All right, I love this. All right, so can you show me the manuscript of Daniel that dates all the way back to Daniel that you said proves Muhammad is a true prophet?
That's the whole point. The point being,
bro, get off my stage, bro. Goodbye. I'm done, bro. I'm done. Goodbye. That's the whole point. Matter of fact, I want to hear it. Go ahead. Explain that. That.
The point being is that there's going to be remnants of truth found in there.
Where? Wait. No, you just said if the manuscript doesn't date all the way back to the person, right? If that manuscript found of Daniel doesn't date all the way back to Daniel, it's automatically false. Now, some of
you're assuming that it must be absolutely false. You're saying, hey, there can't be any truth in it.
I'm all right, bro. I appreciate you for the conversation, bro. I'm not finna play games with you, bro. Hey, thank you, bro, but I'm not finna play. All right, y'all.